I hope that you all would be in the best of your mood. Dear fellows, today we're gonna to discuss about adverb comparison or comparison of adverbs. In the previous classes, as it has been continued that adverb, so we can know that adverb is a word that modifies. Modifies means that describes. That describes a word, that describes an adjective, or that describes another word. That is called the adverb. According to adverb, we there discuss all things about adverbs in sentences too, in model sentences. And then we also came to know that how an adverb qualifies or describes a word, or how an adverb qualifies or describes an adjective or another adverb. Okay, so today we have adverb comparison. So by the word comparison, you know that we mean by comparison that the degrees of comparison. If we gonna make degrees of comparison, as like in adjectives, if you remember, as like the adjectives has the degree, the adjectives have the degrees of comparison. The same is the case here too, that adverbs also have some degrees of comparison. I say that as like the adjectives have the degrees of comparison, so some of the adverbs, not all the adverbs, but some of the adverbs, they also have the degrees of comparison. Now, how to make the degrees of comparison according to adverbs in a sentence, or how can we use the degrees of comparison for the adverbs? So, if we have an adverb and the adverb is one syllable, if the adverb is one syllable, then what should we do? We will make the comparison, we will make the comparative degree of the adverb by adding er to the end of the adverb, and the superlative degree by adding est to the end of the adverb. I mean that if we wanna to compare two adverbs, if we wanna to make a comparison between the adverbs, so from the positive to the comparative degree, we will add er to the positive degree, and it will become comparative degree but this one is the condition that if the adverb is one syllable. If we have an adverb and the adverb consists in one syllable, therefore making the comparison in the two with the positive degree, we will add er and it will become comparative degree. Oh, now for the superlative degree of adverb, there we add est. We add est to the end of positive degree, to the end of positive degree of an adverb, and it becomes the superlative degree of an adverb. So simply, shortly, I can say that by adding er to the positive, it becomes comparative, and by adding est to the positive, it becomes superlative degree of adverb. Okay, as like here, look at these examples. As like I have here some examples, some model adverbs. Fast, ast, fast. By adding er to the positive, this is the positive. Fast is the positive. Now we have added here er. So fast, faster. Okay, and for making a superlative form, superlative degree, we added est to the end of the positive degree. Fast is positive. By adding er, it became comparative, and by adding est to the positive, it became superlative. Long, it is positive degree of adverb. Longer, by adding er, it became comparative. Now we can make comparison of two adverbs. Okay, and longest, by adding est to the end of the adverb, it became now superlative. Hard, harder, and hardest. The same is the case for all of them. Soon, sooner, and soonest. Soon, positive degree of adverb. Sooner, by adding er, it became now comparative degree of adverb. Soonest, now we made it the superlative degree of adverb by adding est. Now look at here, if adverb ending, that was the one method. That was the first method, and that was for one syllable adverb. Okay? Now, if an adverb ending in ly, because commonly we derive the adverbs from the adjectives by adding ly to the end, and they change from adjective into adverb by adding ly. It's like here, if there is an adverb and the adverb ends in ly, so comparative, make comparative. By comparative we mean that we go to make the comparison, or we will make the comparative degree of that adverb which ends in ly by adding more before the adverb, by adding more before the adverb, and by adding most before the adverb. And which adverb? By adding more and by adding most before the positive degree of the adverb. So if the adverb is in its positive mood and it ends in ly, we will add more before the positive degree and it will become comparative. If adverb in positive form, in positive degree, ends in ly and we want to make it superlative, at that time we will add most before the positive degree and it will become superlative. So these are about adverbs ending in ly. Now look at these examples skillfully. Here, this is a positive degree. This is the positive degree of an adverb skillfully. ly, at the end here we have ly. Now, if there is ly and we wanna make it comparative, we will add more before the positive degree of adverb. So now that is skillfully. Here also it is skillfully. This is the positive form, but we added before this adverb more, so skillfully, more skillfully. Now it became the comparative degree. And look at here, by adding most before the positive degree, it turns into superlative degree. So most skillfully, carefully, it also ends in ly. Now we added more before the positive degree, more carefully, and we added most before the positive degree, and it became superlative degree. So carefully, more carefully, and most carefully. But one thing you should mention, it should be mentioned, and you should keep it in your mind that is notable. That is, except यानी कि all these adverbs, they match your forms as like here ending in ly, but except early also. Early is an adverb which ends in ly, but this formula is not for early. Only single word early. Early is a notable word which not turns its shape from positive to comparative and to superlative by this method of adding more or most. Because early we make its comparative by earlier, by adding ier, by adding er as like here it was, and by adding est to the end as like it was for one syllable. Okay, so early, earlier, and earliest. This is also an adverb, and the adverb ends in ly, but this formula of ly adding more and most, it's not for early. Early is a single word which we cannot make as like other adverbs ending in ly. So here early, earlier, and earliest, it should be noted. Okay, we also have many adverbs which by their nature, I mean that we have some adverbs which have their nature on such a way, on such a form, in such a structure that we cannot change their nature, and by nature they remain the same. We cannot make their comparative and superlative degrees, and there are these many adverbs from their nature can't be compared. We can't compare them. They are not comparable. Some adverbs we have which are not comparable, and we're not able to make comparison amongst them of comparative as well as of superlative. And they are now, then, once, where, there. Again, listen please again. Now, then, once, where, there. Now, then, once, were, there. These are such like adverbs where their nature is on such a way that it's not possible to make the comparative or superlative. I mean that we can't compare these type of adverbs. Okay, so after this, okay, so some of adverbs we have that they form the comparative and superlative irregularly. As like you know that some words are there which form your first and second, which form your past and past perfect, past participle, past and past participle. By what? By irregular internal change. So same is the case here too. We have some adverbs which form the comparative and superlative degree by irregular way as internally in internal change. As like here, look at much, more, most, much, more, most, little, less, least. L, or we may say badly. L and badly, they are different words. But their comparative and superlative becomes in the same way. L, badly, yani worse, worst. L, was, worst. Badly, worst, worst. Well, better, best. Far, farther, and farthest. Far, further, and farthest. And here one thing more. Here it should be mentioned that as like here far, farther, farthest. So this is far, yani ki sabse दूर. And this word is दूर, यानी दो में से दूर, दूर या हम बहुत दूर कह सकते हैं. ओके, और ये तो दूर हुआ ना. So far, farther, farthest. अब यहाँ पे एक चीज और, we have to further, further and furthest, further and furthest. So yeah, here in this case further, further in Urdu means that hour, यानी कि कुछ hour, ठीक है ना. इस तरह furthest, furthest और ज्यादा, या हम यूं भी कह सकते हैं कि सबसे ज्यादा. Okay. So dear friends, these are some adverbs which are irregular adverbs. We may say them that they are irregular adverbs because they don't follow the way through which we make comparative and superlative degrees of other adverbs. Okay, now look at these examples. We have some model sentences. M. Shafir reads well. M. Shafir reads well. Just as like he reads well. It's a comma. It's a positive degree. So M. Shafir reads well. H. Saeed reads better than M. Shafir. Now here is the comparison of reading by well and better. Now there is the comparison from positive to comparative. So comparatively, H. Saeed reads better than M. Shafir. Okay? And if we gonna to turn it to superlative degree, so we may say M. Kareem reads best of all. So there are three. Now in all these three, M. Kareem reads best of all. So best of all means that now he is out of comparison. His comparison is on a super form and a superlative degree. So best, here we have used well, better, best. From the well, it's now became best. Dear friends, यही था एडवर्ब्स की कंपैरिजन के बारे में कि एडवर्ब की हम कंपैरिजन कैसे बनाएंगे. तो एडवर्ब्स की अमूमन हम कंपैरिजन बनाते हैं कि अगर पॉजिटिव फॉर्म में से हम क्या करें, ER लगा दे तो वो क्या हो जाएगा, वो कंपैरेटिव बन जाएगा. और अगर हम EST उसकी एंड में ऐड कर दे तो वो हमारे साथ क्या बन जाता है, वो हमारे साथ सुपरलेटिव बन जाता है. इस तरह ऐसे हमारे साथ कुछ ऐसे एडवर्ब्स भी हैं जो आखिर में ly पे खत्म हो जाते हैं. तो उन और ये अमूमन हम एडजेक्टिव से लेते हैं. एडजेक्टिव से हम बनाते हैं एडवर्ब्स. तो एडजेक्टिव के एंड में हम ly लगा देते हैं तो एडजेक्टिव बन जाता है, तो सॉरी एडवर्ब बन जाता है. तो ऐसे एडवर्ब से पहले हम मोर और मोस्ट लगाकर मोर से कंपैरेटिव और मोस्ट से सुपरलेटिव फॉर्म में, सुपरलेटिव डिग्री में ले जाते हैं. कुछ ऐसे एक एडवर्ब अर्ली ऐसा है जो हम उसी तरीके से आखिर में अगरचे ly है लेकिन उसी तरीके से हम उसको चेंज डिग्री में उसका कंपैरिजन और सुपरलेटिव डिग्री नहीं बना सकते, उसको अर्लियर अर्लीस्ट से करेंगे। और हमारे साथ कुछ ऐसे एडवर्ब्स भी है जिनको हम इरेगुलर एडवर्ब्स कहते हैं, जो उन मेथड्स के तहत वो चेंज नहीं होते, उन मेथड्स के तहत वो अपनी कंपैरेटिव सुपरलेटिव डिग्री की तरफ नहीं जाते, बल्कि इंटरनली उनके अंदर चेंज हो जाता है और वो क्या होता है, वो बन जाते हैं कंपैरेटिव और सुपरलेटिव, जो कि इधर ये है। और अच्छा, अब एंड में मैं सिखाऊंगा आपके लिए कुछ भी, तो आपने भी काम करना है ना, तो जस्ट ट्राई योर बेस्ट टू मेक compare these adverbs. Now you should compare them. You should compare these adverbs. Try your best. उम्मीद है कि आप जान गए होंगे। बस आज के लिए इतना कुछ। Thank you very much for being with me.